Guess who got more fabric? I did! Woo! I'm so excited. I got 3 yards of that same yellow corduroy from the other Hobby Lobby that was an hour away. They finally got it after 2 weeks of holding on to that rain check, and I thought I wasn't going to get it. So I got the last of the skirt cut, and now I'm starting to sew the center back together. But since this is going to be a split skirt, I'm only sewing part of the way down, and you can see by my thumb there's a blue dot, so that's the point that I'm going to be sewing to. This corduroy is giving me a little bit of trouble while I'm sewing because the top keeps slipping off to the left, so I have to adjust it all the time, and I put a ton of pins in it, and it still didn't help how much it was sliding. So I just sat there and wrestled with it the entire time I was trying to sew the right sides of the corduroy together. And you might notice in this video I'm taking a little bit different approach. I'm not fast forwarding everything 10 times. I have a few shots in here that are fast forwarded 2 times, but otherwise I'm doing everything at normal speed. So let me know in the comments if you like the fast forward time lapse better or the real time videos better. I have the skirt done in both the lining and the corduroy fabric, so now I'm just pinning both of those together so then I can sew all around the edges. The only thing that I am not sewing together is that very small circle where the bodice is. With that all sewn together now, I am just cutting my corners so then when I turn this right side out, those are a little bit more square, which this corduroy fabric is very thick and it was hard to get it nice and square, but I used a good poker stick and really worked those with my fingers off screen to get those seams really nice and straight and flat. I'm still on the fence of whether or not I'm going to iron this. I'm going to try and invest in a steamer to hang this up then and steam it and get all those wrinkles out, but at this time I really don't have a way to make this nice and straight. The skirt is completely done now, so I'm lining up the center back seams on the bodice and the skirt of the corduroy fabric, and then also the side seams on the bodice and the skirt, and pinning those together to get ready to sew the corduroy fabric together. I will sew the lining last, and that will get hand sewn because I want the outside stuff to look nice, so I'm going to machine sew that. And my hand stitching still isn't great, so that's all getting hand sewn because nobody's going to see that lining once I have this on. I thought this was going to be one of the more challenging things to sew, to get all of these seams lined up and all of the seam allowances nice and flat, but this was actually really quick and easy for me. So I was pleasantly surprised that this went together very nicely. You also might notice my voice is a little bit different in this video. Over the weekend, my husband had a sinus infection, my oldest had croup, and since I'm the one who got to take care of all of them, I'm now 3 days later suffering the consequences and probably have a sinus infection and just got over a little bit of a croupy cough. So please excuse my voice. Now this is where things kind of start to get complicated for me because this wasn't strictly in the directions, and this is the first dress I've ever made, so I don't really know what I'm doing. But I'm guessing I can sew the edges of the lining of this bodice together, so those parts that are both the corduroy, because that very center panel on the inside, well not very center, but the left middle and the right middle panels on the inside are both the corduroy fabric. So I'm going to be sewing those together to get some nice heavy stitches in there, and then I don't have to worry about sticking a needle through all of that while I'm hand sewing. So, and it's also got that little triangle piece in there, which I think is going to be kind of hard to get through because that's got all that interfacing in there. So I'm opting to attempt to machine sew this and see if it turns out. Alright, here we're gonna cut that corner now. So then we have a nice square corner. And then turn it right side out. And see, okay, yeah, that did turn out nicely. Great. Last up is just hand sewing. So I already did all that off screen because it's a fairly boring process. And I'm just tying up the ends of this. So I tried to do as good of a job as I could lining everything up. But I was kind of at the mercy of how everything lined up on the outside, and I did mess up in a few areas, so I tried to make up for it in this lining, so some of my seams don't line up great, but I did it to compensate for the outside, so since somebody's going to see the inside, I think this is a win. Now we got that final look with the shirt and the leggings and the bodice with the skirt attached and the corseted belt and the split skirt in the back, which is book accurate. There are so many chapters with ladies sitting down to hand sew and split skirts in the book. Got my Nynaeve braid tug going on. Thank you all so much for sitting with me through this series. And if you want to see more of what I do, hit that like and subscribe button. And thanks for watching.